Hello and welcome to the Reef Talk Extra channel. Now today I'm going to show you how to change the pH probe on a Reef Factory KH Keeper. This is the KH Keeper Plus, not the standard, but the process is almost identical and I'll tell you the only difference when we get to that point. Now if you do have a KH Keeper, this is a really useful video because I make a mistake that you need to know about so you don't make the same mistake. And if you don't have a KH Keeper, it should still be interesting because you get to see the inner workings of the Reef Factory KH Keeper and you'll learn a thing or two about the build quality. So with that being said then, let's get stuck in. Now the first thing you're going to want to do is remove the KH Keeper so it's away from your aquarium. I did try to do this first when it was in sump in place, but it was almost impossible, so you're going to need to disconnect everything. Alright, now we're going to take it apart and remove the old pH probe. So I'm going to take the front off so I can see what's happening. And you are going to want to remove, obviously, the old probe, but more to the point, you need to remove the beaker. So just slide these little bits up and get the beaker out so we don't go spilling water. Slide that up a tiny bit more. There we go. Beaker can go over there. This is the old pH probe now, and to access it you just need to undo a few screws that are around the back. They have these little rubber grommet things covered over them, so you just need to pop those off. They're sticky, so they should go straight back on. I'll pop those four off. Okay, now we've popped the screws off, this started to come down straight away, so we just take the back plate off. And now we need to unscrew the little twisty twist thing that connects the existing pH probe. That's it. The pH probe just comes out of there. There's a little hole here. If you've got the standard KH Keeper, this hole doesn't exist, so you've got to remove one of the pumps, which is a bit of a faff. But on this, it should just slide straight out. And there she goes, pops right out. And I'm also going to keep these two things because I want them on the new pH probe. And while I've got this off, I want to show you a bit of the goop that builds up. So you can see the probe is under here and it should just be clear glass, but this little bit of goop builds up around the edge. It's some kind of bacterial film or something. It comes off really easy. In fact, I'll demonstrate that now. But I do find that it builds up over time. And when this does build up, wipe that off. Look at that, it comes off straight away. When it does build up, it gives a false reading on the pH probe. Now you shouldn't really use this, I'm just using this to demonstrate because this will damage the probe if you do it with a cloth. You can get dipping solution that you clean it in and it just wipes off nice and easily, and then it is nice and clean. You can see the difference already, and that is what I find causes the pH probe to drift the most. Although it's only happened, this probe is now 18 months old, just over 18 months old. And it only started to drift after about a year, something like that. And it's only started to go haywire after 18 months, which is pretty good going. But anyway, we can now dispose of this probe and bring in the new one. And now we bring in the new pH probe then. And this is a different design, as you can see. And it has, in fact, let me show you the comparison. It's completely clear, completely transparent, whereas the previous one wasn't. It has the same coloured tip, so I don't know if it's just a black tube over this one where there's no black tube over this, but the other difference that you need to know about is where the old pH probe had a load of cabling, the new one has, well, what's that? Less than a foot of cabling, 6 inches, so it should slide in here nicely. Just going to slide, in fact, you know what, I'm going to do it the other way around because I don't want to scratch the pH probe. So I'm going to put this around the front. Slide that in there and put it all the way through. Rest that gently there, and that's why we need the little rubber thingamajiggers. Okay, and this is now editor Alex talking because this is where this went wrong. The little shelf that the rubber grommets sit just above is attached very delicately with super glue, and I managed to snap it off. There you go. And you can see I didn't put an awful lot of force on it, just a tiny little push, and I managed to pull the super glue away. And this is one of the downsides of the build quality of the KH Keeper. While the acrylic does look very nice, it is a little bit flimsy, and I feel like that shelf should be able to withstand a lot more harsh treatment than a gentle push. So just make sure you're really careful when you're touching that shelf. Now the fix in the end was quite simple. All I needed to do was apply a little bit of super glue and clamp it for a few hours until it held. But anyway, that is the fix sorted, so now I'm going to pass back to camera Alex and he can finish off. Okay, we've been drying for 3 hours and we are now just about set, so this should be fine. And I've also taken the opportunity to print off a couple of 3D printed supports. That should mean this won't happen. This is probably overkill and the super glue should be fine, but I don't want this to happen again. And when you have a 3D printer, you take any excuse to use it. So now I'm going to fix these in place. Okay, so we now have the fix in place that you probably won't have to do and you will be able to avoid. Now I can finish the job of fitting the new probe. So again, same as before, I'm just going to move that through the back there, put it all the way through, and now this should be able to fix in place nicely. Let's just make sure it's measured up. All right, that's that in place now. We can turn it around the back, and all this needs to do is connect up to that bit. There we go. So now I just need to put the back on, do the screws back up again, and we're done. So that is how to change the pH probe on a Reef Factory KH Keeper. Now, if you don't make the mistake I made, it will be a very simple job and it will only take you 5 minutes. But because the construction is a little bit flimsy, you will need to be a little bit careful. And this is something you're going to have to do probably once every year to 18 months. So you need to be really careful every time you do it so it doesn't break over time. If you enjoyed the video, then give me a thumbs up and subscribe for future Reef Talk Extra videos. And until next time, happy reefing.